Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Australian Business Consulting and Solutions presentation on discovering the Middle East and North African markets. We welcome you to our first webinar on these topics. We will be doing more international trade topics in months to come, and we hope you enjoy today's presentation and actually have some takeaways that will help grow your business. The presenters today is myself. I'm Bennett. I'm the Senior Manager International Trade at Australian Business Consulting and Solution. I have my colleague with me, Camil. He's our Manager on Middle East. He's the specialist in this market. Camil has worked in the Middle East markets for a number of years and has done a lot of trading and business development in this area. Today, the topics we're going to talk about is the MENA region, trade volumes, opportunities within the Gulf Cooperation Council, which we'll be referring to as GCC, steps in selecting markets, some characteristics, the Halal brand, and then today we've selected 3 markets to look at in particular, the Saudi market, UAE, and the Sultanate of Oman. And we'll finish off with a very innovative product built by the Chamber Movement in Australia called Australian Tradelinks. Right, the Middle East and North Africa, it's a very, very large area. It takes in a range of cultures, languages, and opportunities. Some of the markets have similarities, some are absolutely diametrically opposite to each other. The main markets here, you see the list of MENA countries, which is the Middle East and North Africa, being the acronym for this group. Please note that Israel is in there, but it predominantly connects with the European market and has very little interaction with the other 19 countries. Middle East and North Africa is often referred to as the MENA region. It covers the majority of the Arab world, and as you're probably well aware, there's twofold development going on in this region. There are the countries which are obvious, like Egypt and Syria at the moment, which are in political turmoil. There's a number of countries coming out of the Arab Spring, and there's a few countries, because of the Arab Spring, are in economic stagnation. Then there's the group of countries in MENA, which are the energy-rich economies, and the economies which have a broad spectrum of industries and are doing very well and have instigated reforms to keep both the social and cultural attributes of their country moving forward. These twofold growth create some very interesting opportunities. You'll hear mentioned regularly through today's webinar the word research. It's absolutely paramount that you do your research and you connect with specialists when entering this region to identify which is the best market for you. So we have the 2 blocks, which are the slow growth economies. The populations are growing, there's undeveloped skills, some of the institutions are weak, and there are a number of labour issues. The labour issues refers to the past situations where many countries have had imported labour and now realise that they have to actually have their indigenous people employed. The energy-rich economies are basically in the GCC. They're well-funded. They have good skills programs. They're looking at innovation, and they're looking to replace foreign labour. The MENA itself, if you look across where MENA actually fits in, it's in the middle of Africa, Asia, and Europe, which is 2.5 billion people. We specifically mention this because there's great trading opportunities that move out of some of the Middle East nations. MENA itself has 290 million people. They're cashed up. There's plenty of cash floating around in these markets, particularly in the GCC. The GDP is 3.3 trillion, and exports and imports combined are approximately $2 billion. So we can see that there's a lot of opportunities in this marketplace. The energy-rich companies are mentioned here. You know, you've got your UAE, you've got your Saudi, of course, which is the largest and the wealthiest nation of all. You've got Qatar, which has phenomenal amounts of gas. You've got Kuwait, Iran, and Iraq with very high amounts of oil. And then you've got the smaller nations that are working quite well, like Oman, which has not only oil and gas reserves, but it has substantial mineral reserves. The GCC itself are a group of nations which are basically oil-dominated or gas-dominated. They either have common borders by sea or by land, and we'll be featuring, as I mentioned, 3 of these nations today. Now, as we move along, we look at the Australian and Middle East trade volumes, and I'll pass across to my colleague Camil to take you through this.
Thank you, Radwan. Welcome, everybody. Assalamu alaikum. I'd just like to talk about the Australian Middle East trade volumes to give you an idea how big is this trade. At the moment, our exports coming from Australia is, you have in merchandise by 6.5 billion. This is last year's figures. Primary product 2.6. Manufacturing is quite significant. Obviously, we can't list every single product, but the major categories is meat in all kinds of variety, cuts, and livestock is quite large, and so is our agricultural products. There's also plenty of services in health, education, tourism, which we export in smaller amounts, and that all adds up. As far as imports from that part of the world, the region, we imported last year about 4.4 billion. Most of it is, obviously, it's in petroleum, gas products. The surprising one is pearls and gems, where we imported about 70 or 80 million dollars worth of product in there. Now, I'd just like to have a quick look at opportunities in the GCC countries, and to give you an idea where the GCC is, it's made out of 6 countries, as Radwan was mentioning, and they all share common border, and the most common of all borders is the Gulf region. However, some of them, they also have a land crossings in there, and they're setting up a huge investment in rail to connect all of them coming soon. The opportunities that are presented to Australian companies are enormous. They are quite varied. It just depends on where you want to play. There is opportunities in marine. Green products is enormous in there. There are mining regions, so it's great for our miners. Population, as Radwan has mentioned, it's enormous. So tourism, hospitality, there's education is quite big, and let's not forget the food component, where these countries are constantly struggling with food security. FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods, is a huge part of it too, and we'll discuss it later. But let's look at opportunities that present themselves beyond the energy or the carbon areas. Interestingly enough, we've got the modern, what I'd call the Camil, that little car in there, and that's actually from a place called Masdar City. Masdar City, and for anyone in there that like to look at technology and the best of technology that is available in the Gulf region, if you go to that, and there you find that this is a car that drives itself, voice command. You tell it where it goes, you hop in, it will take you wherever you want within that particular city. There's no driver, and it's completely green. On the side, there's also a photograph in there. It shows about how much solar energy they're collecting for one operation. This is a free trade zone, and we'll discuss that in part of our presentation.
As you can see from this area, green products require a raft of services to go with it for technology training, for education, innovation. So just don't look at the actual end product itself. Look at all the services that go into making innovation, and look at as we say here, the opportunities beyond carbon. We'd all like to have one of these new Arab camels, just to get me to work.
They're quite nifty. Now, let's just look at the steps in selecting these markets. And I've just listed a number of key steps. They're not exhaustive, but obviously when you're looking at entering these markets, you got to assess your market size, and how compatible is it with your product. Obviously, if you're going to a market which is too small for your product to be handled, it's not going to move. Consumer buying power, it stands to reason. Have they got the deep pockets to buy your product? Are you at the volume end, or are you at the top end of the market, the niche market? So would they be able to afford to buy it, and would they be repeat buys? All this to be considered. Another one which seems to go under the radar is ease of entry. There's a number of studies in there available from the internet on rankings. How do you enter these countries and ease of entry? You find that most of the GCC countries are in the top 30 ease of entry countries in the world. And it's quite surprising how easy it is. However, having said this, there are roadblocks in there. And the final one is, let's look at what happens after the first sale. Can we sustain it, or can your business sustain it? Because you just don't want to be there every time offering a new sale. Gulf business, yes, it is easy, it is fun, but it has got its own idiosyncrasies, and you better understand it before you try to attempt that part of the world. As far as business culture, familiarity with how you deal with them, it's just beyond the list of do's and don'ts in there, but try to be part of how is business transacted in there. Let me just go to the next one in there and talk about very briefly about understanding the culture in there is driven by Islam, the religion, predominant religion of the country, which Radwan will talk later on about. However, it basically imbues all their life. It's a way of life, and your product has to be compatible with that, and even your behavior when you're dealing with them, with that part of the world. Research. If you don't do your homework, you're not in. Try to understand every aspect. Detail is what gets you in. Reliable partnerships is extremely important, because if you develop a partnership in there and you want to break it, divorce is acrimonious, and it might even preclude you from coming back into the region. So be very, very selective, be very careful, do your homework, and enter in a measured way. Legal advice. Can't emphasize how important is legal advice is in structuring, in setting up. You just don't want to go in there and try to say, well, I'll wing it. There's no winging in that part of the world. And please note that if you're going to enter the Arab world, all business is personal. What does that mean? If you're not within 3 feet of your customer, you're not on their radar. They do not read emails. They do not respond to just occasional hi and bye. You have to be there to do business.
Just on that matter, I know a lot of people looking at the attendees on this webinar have done business in other parts of the world, and I know that when people have gone to China, North Asia, into Southeast Asia, they've engaged in serious cross-cultural training, understanding. You're very fortunate, in a lot of cases, you're very fortunate to have some staff members who've come from that region to assist you with this. There's no difference in looking at the Middle East. Understand the culture, and everything starts to work and fall into place a little bit better. So cross-cultural training, definitely a key. There's nothing scary about it. It's just another culture that you've learned about, except instead of being in North Asia, it's now in the Middle East.
And thank you, Radwan, and learn to drink lots of coffee, because a lot of business happens over a cup of coffee or over a meal. They're not about closing a deal. They're trying to, over there, basically assess, can they do business with you for generations to come? Now, let's try to look at, as a working example, on a number of industries which I've selected in here: retail, fast-moving consumer goods, fashion, and I know there's some of you in that part in the fashion. Malls, shopping centers are enormous, beautiful, magnificent. It's many times we don't have that type of level in here. They're basically broken into two types. You have your mall, which is an upmarket, and the local souk. Shopping is a favorite pastime of all Arabs. It doesn't matter. You know, they just love in the evening, been hot all day, to go out, relax in the shops, nice, cool environment, and just meander around. There's something for everybody in there. The malls are the top-end souks. As you can see from the photograph, it doesn't have to be something that's small or dingy. They are actually great for shopping. Some of the malls, or actually the souks that you can find, you find the gold souk of Dubai, where you see more gold than anywhere else, than Fort Knox. All major cities have got these malls. Doesn't matter which part of the GCC. Fashion, I must say, a lot of the fashion might even hit these markets, particularly Dubai, in the UAE, well before it hits the local markets in Paris, Rome, Shanghai, or Sydney. Now, one of the interesting things which one often gets asked is, look, women wear abayas, which is the black cloak, and, well, what's under that shrouding? Well, I can tell you, it's quite simple. What's under that shrouding is a lot of branded merchandise. You're looking at Dior, Gucci, Prada, Chanel, Versace, Giorgio Armani, you call it, it's there. These are very expensive markets, and they have got deep pockets. When they go buying, women do not buy one dress here once a year. They buy 5 or 6, in one hit, with all the accessories with them. Just to give a bit of variety, we've moved over to give you an idea about why is Australia a good fit for the region. Mainly because we haven't been knocking on the doors of those markets in a serious way, other than commodities and motor vehicles. We just haven't. The Europeans have been there, so whatever we offer is a fresh offer. It's new brands for them. There is a lot of climatic similarities between the two countries in aridity, in temperature, in the way we dress, in our lifestyles. And also, Arabic is one of those, it's actually the second highest spoken language after English in Australia. So that would be an interesting thing to consider. Maybe it's being edged now by the Chinese languages, but you can find Arabic labeling, and it's very easy to label your product that way. For those who have got packaged products, packaged goods. Let's have just be mindful that you're sending goods to a market that is hot, humid, and it presents its challenges. So your packaging has to be durable. Humidity causes rust if you're sending cans, so they have to be litho plated, and pack sizes is extremely important. You have a market in their dual market. For the retailer, they want a small sizes to suck and see, as they say, and the institutional buyers are enormous, so you have to have in jumbo sizes. So these are things which you consider.
Also on this area, we're talking about actual products in fast-moving consumer goods, but the service industry, once again, plays a very big role in this region. Retailing is continually developing. The training of staff to manage retail outlets, to manage food processing, to move logistics and distribution, software systems to manage fast-moving consumer goods, supply chains, they all form a part of this expansive market. You've also got a lot of Australian professionals there in architects, engineers, city planners. All of it fits into this new mode of fast-moving consumer goods, which are moving right throughout, just not the Emirates, Dubai, is moving through Dubai, Abu Dhabi, it's into Oman, Kuwait, Bahrain, and a lot of the other, Qatar, all these other states. So once again, even though we're talking about fast-moving consumer goods, think laterally of all the services and products that are needed to make these fast-moving consumer goods actually reach an end customer. Well, thank you for Camil on that overview so far, and we now move on to what is halal. Everything in the Middle East has to be, in most cases, halal. You'll see here a range on your screen, a range of various badges or attestations, stamps, etc. The one I've got the cursor on right now, it just says halal in English and Arabic. We've got another one in the top right-hand corner here, Arabic, and down the bottom corner, just Arabic alone. This does not work in 90% of certifications and acceptance within the Middle East. A buyer actually wants to know the certifying authority, the country where it was certified. So if any time in their future, they can then cross-check and verify the validity of this halal certification. Why is it important? Well, there are a substantial number of Muslims in the world. We're looking at around about 2 billion Muslims right now. And if you're thinking of the marketing in the Middle East, you'll fly across some of the most populous Muslim countries in the world. Indonesia, possibly Malaysia, southern Thailand, Bangladesh, Pakistan. And believe it or not, people don't talk about it too much, but up to 25% of the population in India are Muslims as well. So putting those numbers together, you've got a gigantic market. So Southeast Asia, the Middle East represent 400 million plus as a minimum. There are 4 segments that we've got to focus on in the halal market. Everybody thinks halal is about food. Obviously it is. And it must be halal right through the food chain, from the raw materials, the semi-processed products, to the manufactured product, right through to retail. Cosmetics and toiletries. Today, there are many hundreds of brands of cosmetics and toiletries. Most people have no idea what's in there. We see things like placenta coming up as a cosmetic and toiletry. Where does that placenta come from? Is it from a halal certified animal? What other ingredients of these cosmetic and toiletry companies inculcated into their actual product. They have a lot of fancy names, and what you don't want to have is a product that is not properly certified entering a halal market, and then you spend all your time and effort with marketing, branding, distributor search to have it thrown out. The same thing happens with pharmaceuticals. If you went into your pharmacy today and said, I want to have a krill capsule, 99% of them on the shelf are not available for consumption by Muslims because they're in gelatin capsules. You've got to find something that's in a veggie cap. People say that gelatin is halal certified. There is not enough halal certified gelatin in Australia, New Zealand or Malaysia to cover the production in the pharmaceutical industry. So you've got to think very carefully, do I put it in capsule form? Do I put it in liquid form? Or do I put it in tablet form? Find a way around it. And then at the end of the day, there's the cleaning products, whether they're used in the factories, whether they're used in the home, whether they're used in the kitchen. Are there any animal products? Soap is traditionally made out of sodium tallowate, which in real terms is animal fat. Where does that animal fat come from? Has it been certified halal? 99% of the time, no. So you'll find a lot of the products in the toiletry area and the pharmaceutical area, they've substituted sodium palmolate, which comes from palm oil, which is being used as a substitute for the animal tallows. So think about it. It's not difficult to get halal certified. There are very highly qualified certifiers in Australia. Most of them have a degree in chemistry, food technology, and some of them even have degrees in pharmaceutical attributes as well. And they can tell you straight up whether your product is going to work, but they also are very capable of understanding. You have recipes, you have formulas in your products, and why an ingredient is in your product, and many times they can substitute or recommend a substituted product, maintaining your taste or your outcome. The thing about halal, it's actually based right back to the days from the creation of the Quran. It basically says anything that has to do with a pig will never pass muster. It also says if there's any alcohol in it, it's not going to pass muster. So think carefully about your products, how much it's going to cost you to reformulate or repackage or rebrand to be suitable for this market. The Middle East may not be suitable for every single Australian exporter. You may be best spending your advertising and your business development funds on other markets. But don't walk away because you think it is difficult. Touch, see, and smell and have a look first. It's a gigantic market. Every year there's events, which we'll talk about in a minute. But when you look at the Islamic festivals and holidays, think about all the things that you normally buy at Christmas time or at Easter time to have your feasts, your celebrations, gift buying, dressing up, smelling good, looking good. This happens up to 7 times a year in the Middle East markets. So there is just a continual consumption of products. There's fashion, there's travel, there's absolutely sometimes outrageous lavish hospitality. And as you can see, just around the Qiblat there's probably 2 or 3 million people there that have traveled through many of the Gulf countries just to get there. So all the neighboring Gulf countries around Saudi Arabia also get a flow on. And after they've been to the Hajj, which this is a picture of, they then spend time traveling around. So just in conclusion, and looking at the advantages Australia has, if you're an exporter of food products, raw material, semi-processed product, and you've got Aqua certification, one of the toughest certifications in the world and recognized as such. Your Halal certification, your HACCP accreditation. If you're ISO accredited, you've got 4 of the stars. And Australia globally is now being recognized as the leading clean and green supply nation. So you've got a 5-star advantage which you can put into your marketing plan. So yes, sometimes it can be, people can consider it arduous, but we can assist you on this. We have the contacts, and we can help guide you through this Halal accreditation. Now, we're going to start having a walk through the selected GCC markets, and we'll put you back to Camil.
Thank you, Radwan. Well, we've obviously cannot cover every single market, so we picked up 3 markets with distinct differences to walk you through. One is the largest is Saudi Arabia market, 2 is United Arab Emirates, and the last one is the Omani market. They were selected for a number of reasons. Saudi is an evolving market. They are after quality. They've got extremely deep pockets. UAE, well, in our advertisement we said we're talking about beyond the Dubai borders, and which are the free trade zones, and UAE has become a world trading hub. We've referred to it, there is estimates between $2.7 to $5 trillion floating around in these markets with modern ports, etc. Oman is a interesting and great market, small population, again it's energy powered, and it's thirsty for goods, services, and a safe market to enter and try your business there. Now, if we start talking about the Saudi market, just on food alone, we're looking at a market that rivals the one in Egypt, even though it's got a population of about, with the Hajj, probably about 33 to 35 million compared to Egypt, which is under 100 million population, and yet it spends well over $7 to $8 billion just on food a year. The population is young, the rapidly modernizing population. They've got everything in there. When I was living in that part of the world, I remember just flicking through channels, and that was just in my apartment. I had over 600 TV channels, and that was available for them. So they're seeing things, they're traveling a lot, and they're wanting to experience just anything and everything. It's very much a fast food market. There's a lot of outlets in there. They're also focused on new healthy products. The habits of Saudis in marketing, they're different slightly from ours. They are evolving towards a Western style type of food, probably a lot of Italian pastas and pizzas and etc. are there. They do have corner or convenience stores in every corner over there still, because of the way the society is structured, in that women just generally don't go out and buy things in the middle of the day. They ring downstairs or the corner store and they have things delivered to them. They also do not drive. So the question of convenience is extremely important. Men is interesting to have a look at their shopping habits. Because of this, the men tend to carry or push the basket, except they do not push baskets, shopping baskets that is. They do all the food shopping and other shopping for the family. When it comes to clothing, they go with the family to buy, but I'm just talking about here basics foods. Because they do not like to carry bags or push baskets, you find them going and eating out quite a bit. So there's a lot of small purchases and a lot of visits to supermarkets. Just to look at the trends in food and beverage, there's a lot of opportunities. Anything, looking at cakes, soft drinks. They're very big consumers of poultry. Huge quantities get imported from overseas, and they're also investing in their own country, setting up operations there. Wheat cultivation will stop, will be banned by 2017 in Saudi because of the water table, and it's cheaper to import all this.
So just on that, with the banning of wheat products, don't think of the Saudi growing wheat. It will finish. Therefore, anything that is flour-based, starch-based, even ingredients for cosmetics and toiletries, sometimes in the plastics area, some in the moulding industry, anywhere where flour, starch, or derivatives of starch or of flour are used, will now have to be imported. So it can be, yes, we're major exporters of wheat to Saudi, but we also send a lot of semi-manufactured product, raw materials that are processed raw materials. You can be an ingredient supplier in this market.
Thank you, Radwan. Just moving on, if we look at the demand for categories, think about brands. They are very much a brand-driven country. And look at your niche categories where you could enter in there. I've listed just a few in here with food, health. Most importantly, make sure whatever you put in there has got halal food certification and is properly done. The second market which we've also selected is the United Arab Emirates, and for a number of reasons. It's as far as Australia is concerned, it's our largest Middle East, North Africa trading partner. They buy from us mostly agricultural products and, surprisingly, motor vehicles in large quantities. Etihad, Emirates, they fly here, Qantas. We have, for example, as far as education is concerned, Wollongong University has graduated over 10,000 students, and there's about 15,000 Australians working and living in that part of the world. There's also a lot of tourism between the two countries. Now, I like to talk about free trade zones, and just an example in here, we have the Abu Dhabi ports. We have also other free trade zones in there as an example. Now, what are free trade zones? They are basically zones that are quarantined and considered they're outside the country. Even though they reside within the country, they are quarantined from customs intervention. If you want to deal outside of that zone, you have to appoint your own local agent to take you outside the zone. They are mostly located next to international seaports or airports because of the trade. How much volume is moved in these free trade zones? Well, in the UAE alone, 80% of what's traded is traded in these zones, and of which 70% really does not go into the country and is traded internationally. This is why we're seeing a big move towards huge organizations locating in these, locating their export departments or their headquarters in these free trade zones. There are obvious advantages, and the advantages is this 100% on everything. I call it. You have foreign ownership. You can own an enterprise 100%. You have got import-export tax exemptions 100%. You can repatriate your money and your profits. Tax exemptions on corporations for 50 years, extremely generous. And just think about it, there is zero personal income tax. This is just amongst other things. We can also assist with licensing. Now, I've just put a small bit of examples of the types of free trade zones. In there, there's well over 40, and they're building just about every few months. You have a new one starting in that part of the world. I'd like to move on now to Oman, the smaller market, in the Sultanate of Oman. The reason being it's a test market, and it's great for Australian companies to basically get in there and get their fingers wet in that part of the market before they move on. The population is small. They are per capita is climbing up rapidly. They're oil and gas backed. They do have agricultural wealth, but it's still not developed, so anyone in that industry could get in there and help, same as anything to do with chemicals and construction, etc. They need anything and everything. Now, what are the characteristics of this market? Why do we consider it's a good test market? Is that it's a stable country. There is security, it's predictable investment climate, your IP is always protected, you're quite safe, and you're welcome at all stages. You can get in and out quite easily. Entry strategies into that market, I've just put in a number of areas in there, what you need to consider as strategies, whether you go with an agent, distributor, and each of these things have a huge impact. How do you sell to a government? Because a lot of it is on tenders if you're looking at the bigger projects. How do you promote, advertise, etc. Now, there are quite a few commercial opportunities in that market, and the main areas is oil and gas, but if you're on the smaller side, you might look at medical equipment or manufacturing. Franchises are extremely lucrative. They are looking for product and a variety of product. Education, there's a huge government push towards higher education. If you're in that space, it's a great market for you to be in there. So the next generation, what are they looking for? With a growing population, a lot of money floating around. Well, what do Gen Ys and Xs and etc. the ABCs want? Simple things: entertainment, restaurants, recreation, just like anyone else. Vocational education, and I mentioned earlier on higher education, and this is where Australia can play a constructive role. There are a number of other opportunities, more specifically in detail, water recycling once you get into it, in the fishing industry, aquaculture, working boats, pharmaceuticals, etc. They do also have a cluster of their own free trade zones where you could get in there and operate. I've just going to divert back again to the UAE and Australia on something that is interesting that happened last week, and that's in the free trade zones. You have the Dubai International Financial Center, which is a court. They do have their own courts, have signed an agreement with the New South Wales Supreme Court to apply each other's laws. So we're starting to see international laws applied between us. International law is one of those areas which is, well, it's not fully defined, but at least, we're all on the same page. So you can speak the same language.
Right, thanks for that, Camil. One of the things that you will see that we've done, we've had to move fairly quickly through the country specifics, but it's one of the things we do at Australian Business is we help people engage in there. We help them work out which is the right strategy, and it's very important what Camil said about Oman. It's a safe, comfortable market for someone to learn how to export to the Middle East. You can do it without the hustle and the bustle of the world sitting in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, where there's some of the largest ports in the Middle East, some of the largest airports in the Middle East. You can move slowly and comfortably and understand how you launch a product into the Middle East market through Oman. And once again, With the legal aspects, we have the capability of guiding you in there through the Australian lawyers and advisors, Australian business lawyers and advisors, which we are connected with. And we also have the skills to do the strategy development, the understanding of each individual market with each individual sector. There are obviously pathways that need to be considered, and that's where we come into the fore, into the game in that area. Now, finally, just wrapping up, Australian Tradelinks is a program that's been developed by the Chamber movement in Australia, and we're very proud to say that we're a part of that. Australian Tradelinks was developed to help Australian companies engage better in international markets. It's easier for international businesses to connect with Australia. It was launched in May this year. It does 4 key things. Firstly, the Chamber movements around Australia probably get 200 inquiries a week from overseas companies wanting to buy, sell and trade. It's impossible for us to handle that sort of volumes and properly disseminate information. So what we've done is we've built an automatic business matching program into the Australian Tradelinks website that enables overseas companies to automatically connect with Australian companies, and for Australian companies wanting to launch opportunities overseas, connect with overseas buyers and sellers. The second thing is we've got a central database. Australian companies can start to browse opportunities. Overseas companies can start to browse opportunities. This is just starting to be populated, but it's getting better every day. ExportCheck is the first really comprehensive Australian-built export assessment and diagnostic for Australian businesses. It takes you through a number of steps to understand exactly where you are in the export cycle. It doesn't matter whether you're new to it, you've been an ad hoc international trader, you're growing or you're established. There's something in there that will assist you with increasing your business capability. And it will also give you good visibility of knowledge and tools to enter new markets. Finally, the Knowledge Centre. Everybody wants to know where to find information. Well, in the Knowledge Centre we have every Australian federal or state government department that's involved in international trade with a link through to their homepage. We have links to all the bilateral chambers. We have links to institutions which assist with international trade. It could be freight forwarders, it could be training, and it could be logistics. So it's all in there in the one website. I encourage you to log on to the Australian Tradelinks website.com.au. Have a look there. It's free to register. It's free for Australian companies to upload opportunities. It's a source of knowledge that has grown to grow exponentially. We have not over last month or about 6 weeks ago, we launched it at an international congress in Doha in Qatar, where the chambers of the world gathered for their World Congress. And we are now marketing to over 1,000 chambers around the world to integrate their membership into this website so Australians can have access on a global basis to opportunities that are being raised on a daily basis. There's also current news. There's a list of events coming up. So make it a part of your daily viewing to see what's there for you. Register. As I said, it's free of charge, and we look forward to seeing your name up there. So that brings an end to this presentation. Thank you for listening and for viewing. We do have some questions here which I will go through without names or pack drill. We may not be able to answer all the questions, but on this through this website you'll be able to access either Camil or myself, where we're quite happy to have one-on-one conversations. Some of the questions raised here have a general application, And I'll quickly run through them. The first question is getting correct distribution channels into this region, and how do they perceive Australian skincare brands? Once again, where it gets back to being clean and green, it gets back to being halal certified and being prepared to put that on your label. It automatically raises your selling position above those which have not done the halal certification. Yes, we are recognized. The Middle East, through the number of Australian expats that work over there, and I mean there's thousands of 20s and 10s, they're all over the place in the Middle East. They know that Australia has the same tough climatic conditions for both the men and the women, and they know that the skincare products work in Australia. They know they work in the Middle East and will be well received. The next question is, would Australian construction experience and licensing be acceptable in UAE? Absolutely. You will find some of the largest multidisciplined engineering companies are based in the Middle East. Some of the companies have had over 6,000 Australian employees working for them. It could be in city planning, it could be in infrastructure, it can be in water, sewerage, highways. So yes, Australian construction experience and licensing is acceptable in the UAE. But once again, we can guide you through that. Potential market, the next question is the potential market in the Middle East for dry processed horse feeds. Absolutely. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has got to feed their animals, and horse racing is one of the very, very big things. And once again, you'll find Australian jockeys there.
Oman and UAE are extremely big in this area too, Ian.
Right.
So it's all across the GCC.
Okay. The next one, logistics, shipping to China, Malaysia. Sorry, wrong area for this question. In regards to the next question, in regards to the fashion industry, does the Middle East work with distribution or is it mainly agents? Being a fashion industry, being a seasonal product, it'll predominantly work with agents. Unless you've got a stable design that's going to go across a period of time, then you can look at distribution. So you'll be predominantly working with agents. The next question, import restrictions into Dubai. As Camil has mentioned, there are a substantial number of free trade zones in Dubai. They are very industry specific, and once a product enters into that free zone, it's like it's never entered the Emirates itself. So there's very minimal restrictions, of course, excluding things like guns, bullets, drugs, and all those sorts of pornography. That does not work. Next question, is Australia included in the Saudi KSPA? That refers to education. Yes.
Yeah, what has happened in Saudi Arabia in 5-6 years ago, we used to have about 500 to 600 Saudi students. At the moment, we have well over 20,000 Saudi students, and King Abdullah has extended his grant, and they're quite generous grants, and yes, that is still operational. It's a question of you being able to market to that market.
Another question here, our company manufactures weighing equipment for the bulk handling industry, local agents. Yes, you will need to find an agent in the Middle East, and yes, there is substantial opportunities for bulk handling equipment.
We've got a lot of ports in there, and that's where they play. Any part of the Middle East, whether you're looking at Saudi Arabia, which imports huge amount of their food in bulk, or minerals and material handling. So yes, this is a huge area for that, for your market.
We've got here another question relating to beef jerky.
Beef jerky is a very interesting product. We don't have any such thing as beef jerky. There is a product which they call lahm sharmut, for anyone who understands Arabic, which is dried meat. However, if you're looking at products that are close to it, to what is a beef jerky, you have something called basturma, and you have a lot of products that are the dried sausages, the salamis, and again, yes, these products are not halal. They're pork-based, but if you are able to manufacture it with veal or use beef, have it halal certified, the market is enormous. As we mentioned earlier on, that market is starting to and have an insatiable demand in the palate for Western food. So yes, this is an enormous market, but you have to do it properly.
Okay, quickly moving on to the next ones. Certificates of conformity for Saudi Arabia. Yes, we can assist you with how that is done and take you through the process. How is doing business in the Middle East similar or different to India or Asia? You've basically got a different culture, but once again, it's very similar in the basics. Learn the culture, do your research, get some allies, and we can help you into those markets. One here is on a completely different area we haven't discussed today, trading about the Iran and the sanctions. Yes, you can go to the DFAT website, Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. They actually have a sanctions website. The main concerns around dual-use products. We have a member that exports taps, for bathroom taps, and has been doing for 20 years, and he was pulled up the other day, and they asked him, can it be used in a nuclear plant? And he said if they've got a washroom in a nuclear plant, they can use it. But get over it. So you've got to go through that discussion. Now, some of the online questions here, they were the questions in advance.
There was one on Bahrain, whether it's a stable market. Someone has asked. Bahrain is a GCC country, and yes, it is stable. Okay, it does have some issues at the moment, but it is a very small market, and what we've done is we concentrated on the bigger markets in there for you.
Okay, what are the general conditions? Sport is a part of the health programs in the Middle East countries. They're probably not as fanatic about sports as they are in Australia, but there is definitely growing interest in keeping everybody healthy. Sport is growing. And
the World Cup coming soon too in Qatar, and that has generated a lot of interest. As far as sport in that part of the world, it's mostly men that play sport. Women are starting to get into it, and what's happening is that they all love soccer or football. That's the main one. Now, another question.
Organic-based fertilizers, we'd have to really seriously think about that question. We'd like to take that discussion offline. Organic market is starting to grow, but it's going down to actually organic fertilizers is probably not the best thing for Saudi, because they're actually cutting down production of field crops because they're running out of water.
Unless it's used for stimulants for palm trees and dates. However, that's a very specialized area.
Camil, could you just go through some of those questions? I don't have them visible here.
Okay. Which regions beside Dubai are good for young women's fashion? Look, fashion is open in all part of the GCC countries. Whichever way you want to consider it, they're all putting enormous malls in there, and they want to occupy and open up in these shops. So there is opportunity for that. You've got to do it properly. There is also a lot of sewing that's done in-house.
Okay, the next question there is export documentation. Australian Business Consulting and Solutions International Trade Team is a part of the New South Wales Business Chamber, and I'm not sure where this questioner is located, but your state chamber is more than capable of giving you helping you with your export documentation. It's something we do every day. A couple of last questions before we get to click off. We did sports consumption, organic materials. I think we've basically covered all the topics.
We're happy to answer questions offline too.
Yeah. So once again, thank you for logging in to see our first presentation, our first webinar on the Middle East. Thank you to my colleague Camil for elaborating with his experience in the Middle East. We look forward to having you on further conversations in the near future. This is Camil and Ridwan signing out as of now.
Shukran, ma'as salama.